The Honorable Congressman Ron Paul, paul.house.gov is his website. Congressman, welcome back to our program.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
It's great having you back with us. It's been some time since we've talked. You, I believe it was yesterday or the day before, went on the floor of the House and gave a spirited defense of WikiLeaks and Julian Assange, pointing out that, for example, that we were lied into the war in Vietnam. Had we only known, maybe we wouldn't have 50,000 dead Americans. And right now, well, let me just turn it over to you. You had your 9 points about why the conservative case for WikiLeaks, or perhaps the libertarian case.
Well, I had a statement. I put them in the form of questions, but I was basically defending the right of Assange to release information that he didn't steal. And I thought the country would be better off if we had that information. The one question that I asked that I think is pertinent is, what have the most people died from? The lies our government told us about Vietnam and the lies they told us before we went into Iraq, or the release of information like what Assange has done, as well as Daniel Ellsberg. And obviously, I don't know if anybody died. At least there's never been a charge that anybody died from the recent release, nor does anybody argue that more people died because we finally learned the truth. Matter of fact, more lives might have been saved. Maybe that finally helped bring that war to an end. The
Vietnam War.
Vietnam War.
Yeah, and now we've got another one.
When we knew it was built on lies.
Yeah, you asked, do the people of America deserve to know the truth regarding the ongoing wars in Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Yemen? And it seems like the answer of your colleagues, Sarah Palin right at the top of that list, but right on down the line in the Republican Party, is no, we don't deserve to know that truth. The National Journal says that in making this statement, you are, quote, breaking rank with the Republican Party. Your response?
Well, probably so, but I've done that before because I argued against. There were only 6 Republicans that voted against going into the war. But you also have to point out that a few in the Congress who may be called progressives, including our administration, they're not doing a whole lot to help us either. Point out that the issue of state secrets is not sacred, and they shouldn't hide behind it. The government's supposed to be there to protect our privacy, but it's not there to have a secret government.
Michael Moore just helped bail out Assange, and he's saying that he will host WikiLeaks on his website if they need it. If the U.S. government was to do as Sarah Palin and Peter King actually have suggested, who's actually a congressional colleague of yours. In fact, he's going to be, I believe, chairman of the Homeland Security Commission starting in January, and charge WikiLeaks as a terrorist organization. Would you go to the defense of Michael Moore?
Well, I have in the past because, on the, not exactly defense, but we've been on TV programs where we were in agreement, about what the problems were with the Iraq war. So I usually step one step aside from making it personal. So Assange, I don't know a whole lot about him as an individual, and I'm not there to defend his character or all his political beliefs. But what I am defending is that he should be treated properly. He's not an American citizen. We can hardly try him for treason and put him on the assassination list. And that's the kind of thing that really bothers me. And I have a strong affinity to protecting the Internet. So those principles are very, very clear, and they're just a little bit removed from me taking the position that I know exactly what he's up to. But all I know is I don't fear the truth coming out, and I've been arguing that for a long time.
Isn't there a certain point, however, at which government does have to have secrecy in order to operate?
I think to some degree, but basically it should be the opposite. I think very rarely, though, and in my statement, I made the point that if we were in a declared war, and we were in the military, and whoever it is had the information that secretly released the time of attack and where it would be, and to the enemy, I would consider that treason. So, no, I think under those conditions, but that's quite a bit different than hiding behind lies and letting the government lie us into war, not protecting vital information in the midst of battle. But I consider these wars illegal and unconstitutional and unwise, and they're foolish, and they're bankrupting our country. So I don't know of much secrecy that they need or deserve.
Congressman Ron Paul, in one of the questions, semi-rhetorical questions that you asked on the House floor, you said, was it not once considered patriotic to stand up to our government when it's wrong? I believe that that's the famous Teddy Roosevelt quote, you know, the dissent is the highest form of patriotism. How do you deal with your colleagues who are marching in lockstep to try to vilify pretty much anybody who you know speaks out against, for example, Iraq or Afghanistan, those occupations, or you know, or in defense of Julian Assange or whatever? You know, they're portrayed as liberals and they must be gone after.
Well, I work quietly in my way. I give a speech and let the chips fall where they may, and they sort of ignore me, hope I'll go away, and nobody will notice. So there's no confrontation, no arguments, nobody yelling at me, and unfortunately, this is the first time I've not been punished for being independent. They've actually allowed me to be a chairman of a subcommittee after many years, which is minor compared to what others might have had. But still, they could have prevented that. So I think, you know, I think there's enough support for these viewpoints. Maybe not, you know, in the Republican leadership or on the House floor as much as there's support for some of these views outside of Washington, and I think they're by independents, a lot of Tea Party people, a lot of Democrats, a lot of progressives. They like the arguments I make for the protection of civil liberties and opposed to war. And right now, I think militarily and financially, a lot of Republicans are starting to say, hey, you know, I think secretly they know I'm right about this, and they wish we didn't have that war, and they wish that we weren't doing it, but they're scared to death that if they say we ought to just leave, that they're not tough. You know, you're going to be a tough person, and I think sometimes people won't like to prove how tough they are with other people's lives, and I think sometimes being tough is standing up for what is right.
Isn't that the same crisis that Lyndon Johnson faced, that Richard Nixon faced, and that right now President Obama faces?
Yes, and I think this has traditionally been actually tougher on the Democrats because they're, you know, Obama actually said a lot of things I was sympathetic for. Some of my supporters went from supporting me over to Obama, and he was more likely the one to end wars. But once they get there, and I can remember a statement by John Kennedy, too, well, I got to be tough here until 1964, you know, right, because the American people want us to be. Well, if it's the wrong thing to do, convince the American people that we don't have to have these wars. But I think it goes both ways. Republicans, you know, are the ones who are supposed to balance the budget, but as soon as they get in, you know what they do? They go and spend. So there's a lot of deception goes on in politics, and that gets pretty tiring at times.
Congressman Paul, what, in your opinion, should we do about the TSA, the Chertoff porno scanners? Now it's come out that if you take the PETN, the explosive that the underwear bomber had in his underwear, and simply spread it on your body, and you know, make a pancake out of it, that these scanners don't detect it, and you could carry a whole lot more than he carried in his underwear. You know, the whole fear card that's being played here in our airports.
Well, yeah, that's how we live, and that's what they do, whether it's internationally or financially, economically. Fear, fear, fear. You know, when the crisis hit in 2007, the world's coming to an end. Let's bail out all the banks and bail out Wall Street. Otherwise, there'll be a calamity. You know, it's always based on fear. Well, I didn't like the approach after 9/11. I voted against it, argued that it would deteriorate into this. No, property should be protected by the owners of the property, not by the government. The government's incapable. They always have to violate civil liberties if they're in charge.
Well said. Congressman Ron Paul, paul.house.gov. Sir, thank you very much for being on our program today.
Thank you, Tom.
Good speaking with you. And nice having a conversation that's not a debate.
For audio and video archives, go to thomhartmann.com.